Welcome into the latest episode of Betting the Pitch, the European Soccer Edition. I'm your host, the real underscore G Warner, coming off a couple really hot weekends in a row. Going to try to keep this momentum going as long as possible. Too bad it is the season is wrapping up soon, but at the same time, we still got a month to go. So let's ride the wave. If you're not following me yet on Patreon, do it patreon.com/the real underscore G Warner. If you're not following me on Twitter, the real underscore G Warner, YouTube, the real underscore G Warner. If you could do a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, it'd be huge for the search rankings. Gonna tonight on tonight's episode, late night with the real underscore G Warner per usual. I'm gonna go through the English Premier League. We have a midweek, pretty much full round. Some teams aren't playing and play this weekend, but double game week for a bunch if you're playing FPL, of course. Then we have some makeup games from Ligue 1. We also have the second leg of the semifinals in Coppa Italia. So stick around. I'll pull an ultimate best bet from one of these leagues. I'll pick a top pick from each of the leagues we're covering. England, Spain, and England, Italy, and France. And then we'll come up with an ultimate best bet, which I will cut into a reel and post on YouTube Shorts at the real underscore G Warner on both those platforms. So without further ado, let's get into the English Premier League. We'll start with a Tuesday matchup, standalone match. Arsenal hosting Chelsea. Standalone games, I know, very big for John Rothstein in college basketball world, but we got one in the English Premier League, which should be pretty good on Tuesday, though ultimately, I guess the Coppa Italia is going on at the same time. French League is taking place on Wednesday. But we'll start with Arsenal, a 1.25 goal favorite at home to Chelsea. Over under here is 3.25. Choose very heavily to under. We might see this fall to 3. So Chelsea coming off FA Cup loss in the semifinals at Wembley Stadium, not too far of a I guess a trip or travel. Got caught saying both those words at the same time. And the nice part is they played a really competitive game. Maybe not so nice for them losing, but a 1-0 loss certainly didn't embarrass anybody. I think Chelsea has really shown that they are potentially turning up for next season. And I think they might be one of those teams you want to look at as potentially one that can earn a ton of points. They just need to find some defenders. And I don't think going from League youth mixed with some Thiago Silva age, elderly. I don't think there needs to be a better combination there. They got the money to do it. We'll see if they get some sanctions. But anyway, Chelsea go to Arsenal. Arsenal are fighting still to win the Premier League, but they are kind of behind the 8 ball now. They did get a win this weekend off of a shanked end of first half goal, then a stoppage time short side. Amazed that Odegaard was able to fit that through Jose Sa. Brutal for unfortunately this huge run. I think I'm at over 60% the last 2 weekends, last 2 weeks really combined. But man, the late goals and stoppage time are just killers, and they've been happening all season. So at this point, maybe I should just be used to them. But it doesn't make it easy when I'm like, okay, just need one more throw in or goal kick and this is over. Empty net goal last weekend as well on Friday, just to start off a weekend in horrible fashion, but ended up turning out really good with a really big Sunday. With all that said, I think Arsenal a 1.25 goal favorite. They're not going to play that same type of rigid sit deep and force Arsenal to break you down type of defense. I thought Wolves did a really great job of it. They didn't do much offensively, but they are very limited in that capacity. So it made a lot of sense. I think Gary O'Neill continues to be an absolute gold mine in the English Premier League. I hope that he will stay on at Wolves, or at least will move to another lower budget club and play defense, because he's able to turn out results that many other managers are not able to. With that said, Arsenal are in a really good position here, I think, because they're going to play an open game, and that's what they've been yearning for. I think the issue here is that Chelsea will try to outscore Arsenal. It seems possible because Chelsea have a lot of ability, a lot of strong attackers. Cole Palmer is scoring 4 goals a match, it feels like, or maybe 6. I'm not sure. But at the same time, that's a little bit concerning because Arsenal are much better, and they've shown that they have problems scoring against set defenses. There's no reason to believe that Mauricio Pochettino is going to play that type of style. So I don't really know what to do with this one, because I do like Chelsea getting more than a goal, but as soon as they fall behind, then chances that they're going behind 2-0 is much bigger than equalizing 1-1. I think if you're backing Chelsea here, you probably want them to score the first goal and then continue to keep scoring. Arsenal have been really great defensively. They're a huge fantasy Premier League pick. FPL, everyone has their defenders, I think, at this point, but it's because everyone tries to sit back and defend Arsenal the whole time. I don't think it's because Arsenal have a great defense, as we saw them get eliminated, giving up, conceding twice to Bayern Munich after taking a lead in Champions League, and then also conceding on the road in Munich. But I think Arsenal are a team I want to be against as much as possible, especially when they're laying more than a goal. I think if I have to make a pick on this one, I'll put Chelsea on my list, getting that 1.25 goals. I think the total here, 3.25, is big, and I mean maybe this one plays a tighter game, but I think it's got two teams that are just gunning. One, the Gunners, but Chelsea, I don't think it's a great plan. I don't think it's going to work really well. Chelsea, I think, are going to just be one of those teams that beat the bad teams and lose the good ones. And I feel like that's the scenario here. Moving to Wednesday, we have Wolves hosting Bournemouth. Speaking of Gary O'Neill, the Gary O'Neill Super Bowl here, as he left or was, I guess he was removed from Bournemouth so they could get Anthony Iraola in there. So this probably means a lot to Wolves, and the players I think will I think take on that mentality. Wolves currently a pick 'em, all the juice on Bournemouth on the road, over unders 2.75, juice all the way to over. Bournemouth somehow found an over last weekend, scored a goal on a penalty, but didn't really do much. Aston Villa scored 3 in response to kill my under 3.25. Brutal, but one of my, I think, 2 losses on Sunday. So I guess I can't complain too much. But this is going to be a different type of game. Bournemouth, they want to sit back and counterattack. Wolves literally sit probably deeper than almost anyone in the league at this point. So that doesn't to me sound like a lot of goals. Where this might hit 3, I have no idea where that comes from. But I'm happy to see it. And I got to say, Wolves at home, pick 'em, getting odds right now, plus 106 at BetOnline and SportsBetting.ag. If you're not a member there, go make a first time deposit. Follow the links in the podcast description on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or on Spotify, and you can get some free money from those casinos. With that said, Wolves pick 'em is on my list. I can't wait to see a quarter of a goal. But I also like under 2.75. Can't wait to say 3. Moving next to Crystal Palace was in Newcastle. Currently, Palace a pick 'em at home. All the juice on Newcastle on the road. Over under is 3. Juice pretty heavily to under. Newcastle, I don't think played this weekend, so they should have some sort of rest advantage. But they hit the road and they've been horrible away from home. So that's going to be a big question. How is Newcastle going to perform? I don't really trust their offense. I think they're a decent underdog because they look like they played really defensively on the road their last match. I want to say at home they dominated Tottenham, but there's another match I can't remember who it was. Fulham maybe. But regardless, I think Newcastle are going to play that type of style because they know their defense has been pretty bad this year. Crystal Palace have done a lot better. I mean, upset Liverpool at Anfield, and of course they've got a pretty healthy front line for the first time in a while. Olise and Eze are back, and those are I think, their future. Jean-Philippe Mateta was awesome at Mainz. Got a German manager to maybe find the best in him. He's been playing great as well. And for that reason, I think I got to look at Crystal Palace at home, especially a great home team. Catching odds as an underdog. Waiting for that quarter of a goal as well. And I think I like under 3 as well, just because it's a way to fade a Newcastle offense that I don't think is great and is a road favorite here. Certainly some concerns in Newcastle conceding, but I also feel like they're planning for next season and trying to build a team to get back into the style that got them Champions League football for this past season and then completely gutted their roster, but so be it. I think Saudi investment fund is probably going to have to get some money together after not finding any sort of European, but maybe they'll find something. Who knows with the number system that's coming out now based on whatever's going on in the Champions League and other leagues. Manchester United then host Sheffield United. Currently Manchester United a 1.5 goal favorite at home. All the juice over under is 3.5. Juice split both ways. I mean, this number has fallen from, I think, from 1.75 to 1.5, but it's juiced very heavily on the Manchester United side, so it probably goes back to where it was. What do you do with this game? Oh man. Manchester United 3-0 up on a championship side in Wembley with half the stadium. Probably more rambunctious on the Coventry City side, but ultimately they are not even to make the playoff, most likely. At least ESPN was telling me that this weekend. We'll see. I'm still PUSB put up Sky Blues, push up Sky Blues, something like that. Anyway, I'm rooting for it. One of my good friends is a Coventry City guy. So Go Coventry City. Love that squad. And I'm glad, amazing that they couldn't cover against Leicester City, the opening match of the season, I think with a 1-0 lead and we're +1 and lost 2-1 at the death. I guess that's when the bad beat started this season, way back in August. But then coming back from 3-0 down to send it to extra time and losing in a shootout when they had a goal in the net that was ruled out for offside. Brutal. But that's what Manchester United do. They can't hold on to anything. I mean, it's kind of amazing. 3-0 lead. Didn't think Eric Ten Hag would do it. I think that was probably the last straw. I haven't seen him fired yet, but wouldn't be shocked if I missed it. Sheffield United on the other side, though, are horrible. I mean, they lost at home to Burnley, another team that came up with them from the lower tier last season. I don't even know what to do. I mean, if you want to bet this game, you really have an urge. I mean, Sheffield United and over probably makes sense. I don't know how Manchester United respond. They probably don't care. They probably play the same way, knowing they have a new manager coming in next year anyway. Um, man, it's just hard to like. I keep unsuccessfully. I mean, I've been doing really well the last couple weeks, and Manchester United unders have been on my card, I think, every week. So I've just been giving a loss away, unfortunately. But I'm gonna learn from my wrongs, I guess. Here's now probably where the under comes in. Sheffield United go on the road and try to defend, but they have nothing to play for. So over 3.5 probably makes sense. And I like the underdog because I think Manchester United can't hold onto anything. Unless it's nailed down, which nothing seems to be. Last one on Wednesday, Everton hosts Liverpool in a Merseyside derby. Pretty good one. Sad that it's a midweek, but I guess it is what it is. Everton, a goal and a quarter underdog at home. Almost all the juice in Liverpool on the road. Over under is 3, juiced all the way to over. Liverpool, gotta win somehow, but never seemed to be easy. Embarrassingly crashed out of the Europa League, though it shouldn't be that embarrassing because Atalanta are a really solid team. We'll talk about Atalanta later in Coppa Italia because they're in the semi there. So Inter's not. So let's just say that. Everton got a very fortunate win this weekend. 1-2-0 under hit. I don't know really how, because it seemed like they just didn't want to give penalties against Everton for Nottingham Forest. And then Nottingham Forest, I think, made a complaint to the referee officials. I think cited that one of the VAR officials in the little booth thing was hilariously a Luton Town fan or something like that, and they're competing with them for relegation, though probably because Nottingham Forest overspent their capital limits or something like that. Anyway, as I see scrolling across the bottom line, NTA immediate eligibility for transfers. Now it's going to be impossible for me to figure out who's going to play on what college basketball team until the season starts. Can't wait. But we got a few months for that. Anyway, back to Everton hosting Liverpool. So this is a big matchup. Everton got that huge win to probably save them, but they still need to do it because who knows if they have some extra points deductions coming through. I think from a Liverpool's perspective, they got all the pressure. Everton are going to sit back and try to defend. I don't trust Everton to score, so that makes me less interested in the 1.25 than I think I'm more interested in under 3. But it looks like that might even get 3.25 before this kicks off. I just don't trust Liverpool to score much either. So Everton plus 1.25 at home, of course, in front of a big crowd, trying to save themselves and deny Liverpool a title in Jurgen Klopp's last season. All works in the emotional space, but I think under 3 is probably what I like more here based on current numbers. Last but not least, in England, before I give you an ultimate best bet selection, before I move on to the Coppa Italia and then also to French League. I'll go Brighton, a 1.25 goal underdog at home with almost all the juice. Over under is 3.25, juice all the way to under at home against Manchester City. So Manchester City looked very tired, gassed, unprepared, whatever you'd want to call it, against Chelsea, only scoring 1 goal and honestly looking like if they I mean, if Nico Jackson could finish any chance, Manchester City would probably be out, and it would be an awful, probably most embarrassing or worst week in Manchester City's long storied history ever under Pep Guardiola if they had lost the FA Cup semi. But they look like they're the favorites to win the Premier League. They seem like they have the easiest road. Plus, they win their matches. Arsenal and Liverpool don't seem to be trustworthy in that regard. And the nice part is Manchester City go on the road to Brighton, who have not played well for a long time, and the odds are back. If you bet the minus 500 odds at the after midnight at the real underscore G Warner, late night with the real underscore G Warner with yawn. You just hit. Congratulations. Leave a 5-star review telling me how much you like or hate the odds if you want to. On Apple Podcast, Spotify, or on YouTube if you want to subscribe there. That'd be great at the real underscore G Warner. With that said, Brighton have been playing terribly. They're going to play an aggressive brand of football and really attack Manchester City. Maybe they're going to be so well rested that they're in a great position because they've been out of Europe for a while. Manchester City are just literally throwing bodies out there. We'll see if they rotate, but I doubt it because they didn't for the FA Cup, and that seemingly was less important than winning the Premier League now that they're out of Champions League. But at this point, who knows what's going to play, what's going to show up. I just don't really love the idea of fading Manchester City with a team that's going to play an open game. So I think my biggest interest here, rather than the Brighton getting a goal and a quarter, is that they contribute on the scoreboard and this goes over. I'd love to see this hit 3. It's very juiced to under 3.25 right now. But until that happens, I think I will wait on the sidelines. So a couple over leans, which I know Joe Dollar would love. I swear I'm feeling okay. It's not just a hot run that's making me like overs all of a sudden. Just telling it how it is. And at this point, being an under player, I'm kind of seeing the writing on the wall of what's really not worth stepping into. So for my ultimate best bet on this podcast, I'm going to go with that Wolves under 2.75. Actually, just kidding. I'm not doing that. I'm going Everton under 3. That's the ticket right there. Too much emotional baggage on the line for Liverpool and too much, I think, motivation, excitement, whatever for the crowd. I think they're going to walk into a cauldron. The Everton Goodison Park Fortress is on. So sorry for that quick mix up, but Everton under 3, I'll make my best bet from England. So now move to Coppa Italia in Italy. We only have 2 matches to go over. But we've got some depth that I can speak to them, because I've got depth at the real underscore G Warner on all the gambling platforms, social media platforms. There's some depth here. Lazio currently a pick'em right now to Juventus. Currently Lazio with getting odds at home right now. Over under is 2.25. She's very heavily to under. Juve with a 2-0 victory in the first leg at home. Now second leg they go to Stadio Olimpico to Roma to potentially try to hold on to their lead. Now, Lazio have been playing pretty poorly. Juve, you could say exactly the same. Maracas got a draw on the road at Cagliari in the islands on Friday night. And they're going to be, I think, fairly well rested. Not a big of a deal. They played Friday night. I think Lazio played earlier Friday, but Lazio didn't look great. Then they somehow won. So I guess good for them. Genoa is probably kicking themselves still, but they're safe, so it's not that big of a deal. And I guess I can go over 2 advanced numbers. So we have those 2. Juve, they're going to try to take a lead 1-0 and kill the game. It's not really been going great for them lately, but that's how they do it. And, it's been worse, I'll say, in the past. I think at this point, I don't know how much I trust Juve, whatever. I really don't like their manager. I expect he will be not. I expect I can't imagine they'll still be around. I mean, maybe that changes. And it looks like this was last played on April 2nd. So we've had a fair amount of movement in this number. Juve were a minus 185 favorite way back when, 21 days ago now, as we tick into April 23rd. Looking at this number, wow. We've now jumped to Juve minus 1250 favorite. Wow. Let's see what do we got here in terms of a move. It's only a 575% change. Pretty incredible. Lazio have climbed from plus 155 to 8-1 odds. So that's probably a reflection based on how poorly Juve were playing coming into this Coppa Italia when it was initially played early April. But I don't know that really much has changed. Both these teams are looking. I mean, Lazio have more to play for, I think, in the league. Juve seem like they're in a Champions League spot, and Italy's been doing great as well. So we'll see how that all goes. But I think my interest here is in under 2.25. Just it's very juiced at the moment. Could get expensive. Fall to 2 tomorrow. I think I'm less interested there, but I think still interested overall because I don't think Juve is going to do anything but defend. I mean, they have attackers and they're going to be against a Lazio team that's probably more open than they would be, especially than they were in the first leg. But at the same time, I don't know that worries me that we're going to see 3 goals all of a sudden. I think this is going to be a really tight match. I think Juve trying to do the best cup competition with a lead impression they can, which is basically stop the other team. And Lazio don't have a lot of great options to score. Ciro Immobile has had no season whatsoever. Wonder if he's done at Lazio. Probably not. Probably sticks around until he wants to hang him up, but maybe after this year he may. Juve got a goal from Vlahovic on a set piece, corner or free kick. Really just awful defending. The amount of guys jumping out of walls that should be standing up, and the goalkeeper's just looking at them, screaming at them. Like I can only imagine what's being said off camera in those type of situations. But the Lazio side's interesting because Juve, they lose 1-0. They're celebrating because they're on to the Coppa Italia final and they can potentially get a trophy from a lost season. But the Lazio side, they're going to be pushing, but I still don't think Lazio are able to really separate playing defensively to then all of a sudden go guns blazing to score. Yes, every second that goes by, it's worse for the under if Lazio have not leveled the or equalized, because then I think they go back to playing defensively or a little bit maybe more open because they're at home and they have the crowd behind them and have already scored 2 more goals than Juve. I just think under is the best way to look in this one. So I'll put Lazio under 2.25 on my list for Tuesday. I'm not going to play 8-1 odds on Lazio. I don't think they can even get 2 goals, really. Moving to Wednesday, Atalanta hosts Fiorentina. This is a 1-0 Fiorentina win in the first leg. Atalanta, half a goal favorite at home, slightly more juice. Over unders 2 3/4, juice very heavily to under. Atalanta rotated a lot this weekend, ended up winning at Monza, played fairly well, I thought. Fiorentina had a slugfest with Salernitana. Were not very good, but did score a late goal. I think win 2-0, cover the spread, and hit the under still. I don't know that I really can take much from that. Salernitana have been so bad and really just non-competitive, I think would probably be the way to describe them. At this point, I don't really know even what to do with that matchup, but unfortunately, I never seemed to catch, or maybe I missed it, a number on to advance for this matchup initially. Fiorentina with that 1 goal lead on the road, they're minus 160 to go through, which feels a little bit aggressive for a team like Fiorentina, who really are not great offensively. They fall behind, then Atalanta are going for a second goal, and I feel like I really like their chances, especially plus 135. So, but I guess if you're playing that plus 135 for Atalanta to advance the Coppa Italia final, that's a nice number in what should be a coin flip in penalty kicks if it goes all the way to a shootout. But really, you're playing plus 135, which is a much nicer number than Atalanta win in regulation. The problem is they have to win by 2 in regulation for you to get your 2 advanced number to cash, without which you would have already won your side bet. So I mean that's the difference there. Certainly would be beneficial in penalties, and really I think it depends. If you think Fiorentina are unable to score here, Atalanta probably do get on the board. So that's the question, I think, ultimately. And for this ultimate bet portion, I don't really want to play Atalanta a half a goal favorite because I'm not a favorites guy. Fiorentina, if they got to +1, I'd be more interested. But ultimately, I feel like this is a good possibility that Atalanta are celebrating a 1-goal victory at the end of regulation. They're going extra time. I think Fiorentina defend, and they basically would not come out to try to turn around or avenge that deficit. Total here at 2 3/4 is too high, though. So that does interest me a fair amount. Fiorentina are going to try to protect their defense. They're going to try to defend this whole time. They want the ball to do that. I think they're going to try to possess the ball and keep it away from Atalanta, which does leave them susceptible to counterattacks. But I think Atalanta will probably be trying to create goals on their own. So I think there's a lot of just really a fight for the ball, more so than Fiorentina trying to score goals and really kind of putting themselves out or putting them in bad positions. So I think under 2 3/4 makes a lot of sense there. And I'll make that my best bet from Coppa Italia this midweek. Next, we'll go through Ligue 1 in France. Have a few makeup games on Wednesday. Then I'll tally this all up for an ultimate best bet end of show. Thank you for tuning in. And if you're not over on Patreon, check it out, patreon.com/real_G-Warner. So we'll start on Wednesday with Lorient hosting PSG. These are makeup matches for when the European sides in France, they basically got that last weekend off, not 2 days ago, but 9 days ago, if you will. Lorient, a 1.5 goal underdog at home with all the juice. Over unders 3.25, juice all the way to under. Lorient are I mean, they've, I think, beaten PSG in this position before. PSG were going all out for a win, and Lorient ended up, I think, changing it an equal a tie game into a victory. Historic. They need one to stay in this league, but they're in okay shape, fighting relegation, of course. So maybe nothing's okay, but they're not dead yet. Lorient, a 1.5 goal underdog at home, are going to do everything they can to keep PSG out. Now we saw Mbappe was did not start this weekend against Lyon. I feel like he's being rested for Champions League, but probably are not going to, I guess, sit him back-to-back matches. That wouldn't make a lot of sense, but I mean, who knows? Um, Probably get 60 minutes from Mbappe, and it's certainly a scary thing against Lorient. They're gonna, at least in the past, and same manager, so hopefully they're gonna play the same way. Though their defense has been pretty bad. It was really bad on Friday, but get 2 extra days of rest after PSG played Sunday night against Olympique Lyonnais. So Lorient's in good rest shape here. I think for that reason, I'm very interested in their side and total. Probably more interested in the total because a lot better chance. If PSG win 3-0, you'll lose the side, but you still win the under at this 3.25 that I'm currently seeing. But I do like the 1.5 as well. It's very juicy at the moment. We'll see where this number goes. I expect PSG to catch bets, but who knows? Probably very much so hinging on Kylian Mbappe and his status. So move to the next match. Monaco hosts Lille, and it's a battle at the top of the table. Two teams fighting for Champions League. Monaco, a quarter goal favorite at home, more juice on Lille on the road. Over unders 2.75, juice more to the over slightly than the under. Lille have been great at keeping clean sheets in the first half. Played Aston Villa really tight in the Europa League. Looked pretty good this weekend. Looked like they bounced back from losing in a penalty shootout to Emi Martinez, who doesn't lose ever for club or country. Club nor country. Monaco, very aggressive, going to try to outscore you, and only a quarter goal favorite at home. You could argue that the home crowd at the Stade Louis II is not great in Monaco, but ultimately they are a really good goal scoring team. They're going to try to outscore you. I think Lille interests me as an underdog, though a quarter of a goal and more juiced at a quarter doesn't seem to be that great of a scenario here. I mean, I think Monaco are very, I mean, their home crowd is not much. So that's pretty nice. And maybe that's kind of what this number is suggesting, that it's not really a big deal for Lille to go there. And they're used to playing midweek. Monaco, certainly, I don't think they've been in Europe this season, so that's a little bit of an adjustment for them. So I guess I'll put Lille on my list, getting a quarter of a goal. I don't think I want much to do with the total here. It's 2.75, which feels decent. I think I'd probably want a 3 to go under. I don't look like that. Doesn't look like that's going to get there. And I really don't want to play unders to Monaco because they're going to try to outscore you all the time. Marseille then hosts Nice. In a nice little Côte d'Azur battle. Should be there in September. Hope to see you all there. Looks like Marseille, a quarter goal favorite at home, more juice on Nice on the road. Slightly over under is 2.5, juice all the way to under. And I swear the beat on Nice on Friday night, their late goal was just killed me. But fortunately, I had a very good Sunday to make up for a pretty much even Saturday, or a little bit under, and then a disappointing Friday, but Sunday was huge. So Marseille, quarter goal favorite at home, have the big crowd, and they are welcoming in an East side that can't score. I don't believe that they can, just based on what we saw on Friday night. Nice are a good defense, but they've got a lot to improve upon offensively. If you're going to give them goals, they'll take them, but I don't know necessarily that Marseille will do that. I think it's a lot more competitive match. Also, at the top of the table, two teams trying to fight for Europe, maybe not Champions League, but I'm sure that's certainly in their aims. I think my biggest interest here is under 2.5. It's hard for me to want to play unders with Marseille because I feel like they have such high expectations they don't live up to. Usually it's because they give up an early goal and have to then respond and score a bunch themselves later to make up for their mistakes. But I think Nice will be a really good team to not let that happen, because they will defend forever because they know they can't score goals. So give me that Nice under 2.5 as my best bet in that matchup. So I got to give a league on best bet. Then we'll go through a couple things to publicize, and then I'll get into the ultimate best bet portion of the show. Hopefully my phone has enough battery. We'll see, as that's, or excuse me, enough space. That's been an issue for a while now. For my best bet in Ligue 1, I think that is the ticket. The Nice under 2.5 goals. I think my best bets all seem to be unders, but they worked last weekend. So let's see if we can keep that going as well. Yeah, so let's I think it's probably time to get into it. If anyone, I mean, there's a bunch of people watching. Maybe I should just keep never sleeping and doing after midnight releases or whatever. Anyone on StreamYard, if you have questions, feel free to throw them in. I just don't think anyone's on there. I don't think there's a way to get, yeah, I can't post comments to X, Twitter. So unfortunately, I guess we won't be able to see that. But thank you for all the support. Of course, hit subscribe if you're on YouTube, if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, leave a 5-star review. Huge for the search rankings. This real or short will be on at the real_G Warner on YouTube and on Instagram, and anywhere else I can think of putting it. But I'm trying to make this a little bit prettier for the end of the season, maybe a little bit of animation or something like that. And any comments or questions or approvals or disapprovals would be nice. Throw those on Apple or Spotify with 5-star reviews, and I will read whatever is out there. Or if you write anything, I'll read it. And if it's related to one of the other podcasts on this Betting the Pitch platform, I will happily have one of my co-hosts read it because they'll probably be more interesting than me because you hear me enough, I'm sure. Speaking of, we'll have a Tuesday night recording with at A Brooks Bets for our Major League Baseball podcast. He's been rolling. I'm still very upset I didn't give out the first 5 under my best bet last weekend that he ended up winning the full game on, and I bet him myself and just gave the wrong one out on the podcast. But we will make sure that does not happen again. Though ultimately we've been off to a great start this season, and hopefully y'all are enjoying those episodes on Major League Baseball, considering it's called Betting the Pitch. Without further ado, I think it's time to get into this ultimate best bet. So let's do it. This is the real_G Warner. This is Betting the Pitch, the European soccer edition for this Tuesday, April 23rd, late night, early morning with the real_G Warner. Got the Ligue midweeks, got English Premier League and Coppa Italia. And I'm going to pick a best bet, an ultimate best bet from one selection from each of the leagues. So we'll start in England. I like Everton at under 3 goals in a Merseyside derby. In the Ligue in France, I like Nice under 2.5 goals. And in Coppa Italia, another under, I like Fiorentina under 2.75 goals. But for the ultimate best bet, before you get there, make sure if you're not a member of my Patreon, check it out, patreon.com/real_G Warner. Best spot to get all my plays, leans, write-ups, and everything across all sports right now. A lot of baseball, a lot of soccer going out there. And thank you for all the support, of course. But for my best bet in this episode, I'm going to go Everton under 3 goals. And we might get 3.25 before this kicks off. But I just think there's so much going for Everton. Klopp's last match, Liverpool trying to win the title, Everton trying to get to safety. I think they do. And under 3, keep this really low scoring. And that'll do it for this episode of Betting the Pitch. Thank you all for tuning in. I will see you with a much earlier recorded episode tomorrow with at A Brooks Bets going over Major League Baseball's Wednesday card. Thank you for all the support everywhere. And any questions, comments, anything, leave them in 5-star review fashion at Apple Podcasts or YouTube, or slide into DMs or wherever you find me at the real_G Warner across all of the social media platforms that are out there.